It's time to have a chat about macros. Macros is short for macronutrients. Macronutrients are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. You may have heard of these words before. You may know what they are. You may know where they come from. You may know what they do for us. Or maybe you've really never known what these macros can do for us or where you can find them in your food. The reason this is so beneficial to learn about is because when you just pay attention to calories and how many calories you're eating on a regular basis, you're only paying attention to overall general calories, which can come from everything. However, macros means you're paying attention to where your calories are coming from in efforts to reach the goals that your body truly needs in terms of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. All food that you eat, no matter what it is going to give you one or more of those macros. So it's important to pay attention to the composition of the food you eat. How much fat is in there? How much protein is in there? How many carbs are in there? That's going to change your body composition and give you better success overall, way quicker and way more efficiently, way more healthy than it would be just to aimlessly count calories. Okay, so I'm going to talk about all three categories, where you can find them in food, and also what they do for our body. And I will end with carbohydrates because there's just more to say about carbohydrates. So the first one I'm going to start with is protein. And I'm starting with protein because it is priority. Protein is king. And this means you have got to make sure you're eating adequate protein, because protein is responsible for fueling our structure, building us up. Not just does it build muscle, which it does, build, repair, heal, all of that, which we need in order to walk and move and do everything that we're doing, but it also helps with our blood. There's proteins throughout our blood that do special jobs. There's proteins within our brain. There's proteins within every little bit of your body. Plus, everything you see that builds you up is actually made of protein. So you can see why it's very important to get enough protein in your diet. Ask your nutrition coach. Ask me if you need to know how much protein you should be eating. But protein comes from things like eggs. You're going to get protein from eating animal meats, all the meats. You can get protein that's not complete, but you can get protein from plants, things like beans and legumes and seeds and stuff like that. And so if you are vegan or vegetarian, you will have to try a little harder to hit your protein goals, but you can get it there too. Protein powders are great. Protein comes in many places. So once you start paying attention to it, you'll see where you can find protein and where you can get more of it in your diet. It's very important. Protein is interconnected to fat, because when you're eating an animal source of protein, you're going to be eating fat along with it. That is just how it goes. So moving on to fat. Fat is great for us. We need it to insulate our organs. We need it for brain function. We need it at a cellular level to build up our cells, along with many other processes like hormone control and things like that. So fats really are very beneficial for us, but bad fats can be harmful to us. Too much saturated fat in your diet can lead to things like heart disease and just an unhealthy diet overall, sluggish feelings, stomach aches, and things like that. So saturated fat is the one that comes along with a lot of the meats like pork, ham, beef, and chicken with the skin. So it is important to be cautious of how much you eat, how much protein you eat that has saturated fat in it, like bacon, how much bacon you're eating. You don't want to overdo it in the saturated fat while you're attempting to hit your protein goals. So you can see how this can be challenging, and it's so important to have a nutrition coach help you to do this. So good fats will come from things like avocados. They're going to come from mostly plant-based sources. Seeds give us great fat. Nuts are a great source of fat. So you may have heard that nuts give you protein, but really actually nuts give you just fat, but it is a good source of fat. You can also get good fats from olives, olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil. Those are the three best. Also, if you eat fish, that is the animal version of a very healthy fat that is great to consume. Salmon is a great option. So we've talked about protein, we've talked about fats. Moving on to carbohydrates. You have likely heard of carbohydrates. You've probably heard to be careful how much carbohydrates you eat, but I want to make sure that this is clear. Carbohydrates are absolutely critical for life to exist. You have to have them for your muscles to function, for your brain to function, for everything in your body to actually function. So protein builds us up, right? Fat helps with the connections of everything. but carbohydrates fuels the energy that we need to function. It is the first choice of energy for your cells to use. So it's the first choice of energy for your muscles to move, to do everything you're doing, for your brain to send connections and make those connections, and so on and so on. So you can see why we definitely need carbohydrates in our diet. However, of course, there are good and there are not so good carbohydrate choices. Processed carbohydrates, carbohydrates that have been turned into something else, cereals, breads, the junk food, the chips, the cookies, the crackers. That's all processed. It's not a whole food choice. It's not real food, right? Those are the carbohydrates that you want to limit. Those are the carbohydrates that you do not need. The excess sugar that's highly processed, that is refined and processed, that sugar, the sweet sugar in candies and all the sweets, that you do not need. It's not going to benefit you. And the reason is because that energy that it provides is not a good usable source of energy for our cells. Even though carbohydrates is the first choice of energy, when it's a very sugary processed choice, it's going to be used up so fast that you really don't get the chance to allow your body to really use it for ultimate function. The carbohydrates that provide us the good energy give us energy a tad bit slower than that, and that is going to be all our fruits and vegetables. They're all carbohydrates, guys. All the plants are carbohydrates, all of them, somehow. So eat them. Fruits and vegetables are going to give you wonderful sources of carbohydrate, and the best form of carbohydrate is called fiber, and this is what you're going to get from eating whole food carbohydrates. So processed carbohydrates are not so great. Whole food carbohydrates are wonderful, and that's what we want to aim for. Things like bananas and apples, they're not off limits, and they shouldn't be. Fruit should not be off limits. It's a wonderful source of healthy carbohydrates, whole food carbohydrates. Also, you're going to get fiber in the skin of the apple. You're going to get fiber in berries. Berries is a great choice for healthy, fiber-filled carbohydrates. So in our diet, we want to focus on protein is king, and then fiber is right there behind because it's so helpful in our blood sugar balance, in our cardiovascular, our heart health, in our everything, so much health. We're even finding that it helps us with our hunger hormones and our cravings. So fiber is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful ingredient to make sure that you have on your plate always. Protein and fiber and a little bit of healthy fat. So hopefully this cleared things up. Remember, you can always reach out to me if you have any questions, and I'll see you soon.